Hi and welcome back to Reddit Whispers. It all started with a shared dream scribbled on a cocktail napkin in a dimly lit bar. It was her dream, really, a passion for creating something beautiful and unique, something the world needed but didn't know it yet. My dream was simpler, to see her succeed. I was a corporate strategist, a man who lived in a world of spreadsheets, market projections, and risk analysis. My job was to take chaotic ideas and forge them into profitable realities. And her idea was the most brilliant, chaotic, and beautiful one I had ever encountered. I saw the potential, a glittering diamond buried in the rough of her creative mind. But I also knew that passion alone doesn't pay the bills. An idea without a strategy is just a wish. So that night, I made a promise to her and to myself. I told her I would build the machine, the engine that would take her art and turn it into an empire. I would handle the boring stuff, the parts nobody sees, so she could be the artist, the visionary, the soul of the company. It felt like the most perfect partnership imaginable. The next day, I resigned from my six-figure job. My boss thought I was insane. My friends told me I was committing financial suicide. But I had never been more certain of anything in my life. We cashed out my 401k, drained our savings, and took out a second mortgage on our house, all risks leveraged against my credit score, my financial history. I became the architect of our new reality. I spent 18-hour days at our kitchen table, which had become our global headquarters. I wrote the business plan, a 100-page document that mapped out every detail, from supply chain logistics to a 5-year marketing strategy. I coded the website myself, learning on the fly from tutorials until we had an e-commerce platform that was sleek, functional, and secure. I negotiated with vendors, I set up the LLC, I navigated the labyrinth of business taxes and regulations. I was the CEO, the CFO, the COO, and the janitor, all rolled into one. She was the heart of it all. Her designs were brilliant, her passion infectious. She was the face of the brand, and I was the invisible scaffolding holding it all up. I loved it. I thrived on it. Seeing her do an interview with a popular magazine, seeing her eyes light up when she talked about her company, that was my fuel. In the beginning, it was always our company. We were a team, a single unit pushing against the world. To protect us, to make everything official, I insisted we draft a comprehensive operating agreement. She thought it was unnecessary, a bit cold and corporate for a business built on love. "We trust each other," she'd said. "I know," I replied, "but this protects the business, it protects you." I drafted the contract myself meticulously. It laid out our roles, our responsibilities, our equity split. The business was legally in her name as the majority shareholder, a strategic move to qualify for certain grants and programs for female-founded businesses. It was my idea. I put everything in that contract to protect the company's future, its integrity. And I added one very specific, very detailed clause: a kill switch. A little-known provision about the ownership of intellectual property and operational systems in the event of a partnership dissolution or the forced removal of a key founder. It was my secret insurance policy, a single paragraph buried in a sea of legalese that I hoped we would never, ever need. The business exploded. Our first year, we beat all my projections. By the third year, we were a multi-million-dollar enterprise. We moved from the kitchen table to a sleek downtown office. We hired staff. We were the darlings of the business world, a testament to passion and strategy working in perfect harmony. But success has a way of changing the narrative. Our business slowly but surely became her business. In interviews, she would talk about the lonely nights she spent building the company from the ground up. She was the visionary who had risked it all. My role, when it was mentioned at all, was reduced to that of the supportive husband. I didn't mind at first. I wasn't in it for the glory. I was in it for her, for us. But a subtle poison was seeping into our partnership. And that poison was her brother. He was a man who had drifted through life on a cloud of failed ventures and bad ideas, always looking for a shortcut. As the company grew, he started showing up more often, offering unsolicited advice, basking in his sister's reflected glory. She adored him, blinded by familial loyalty. She insisted we give him a job, a management position to help with operations. I was strongly against it. I knew he was incompetent, a liability. He's family, she argued, her eyes flashing with a defensiveness I hadn't seen before. Are you saying you don't trust my family? It was the first major crack in our foundation. I relented, a decision I would come to regret with every fiber of my being. Her brother's presence in the office was a cancer. He undermined my authority, questioned my decisions in front of the staff, and constantly whispered in her ear. He fed her ego, telling her she was the true genius, the rainmaker, and that my cautious, data-driven approach was holding her back from unleashing the brand's true potential. He was a wedge, and he drove himself between us with surgical precision. The business conversations at home stopped. She started having late-night strategy sessions with her brother. Key decisions were being made without my input. The woman I loved was being replaced by a CEO I no longer recognized, a person who looked at me not with love, but with a cold, appraising stare, as if I were an asset whose performance was under review. The end came on a Tuesday. It was clinical, brutal, and swift. She called me into the conference room, the one I had designed. Her brother was already there, sitting beside her, a smug, triumphant smirk on his face. She didn't look at me. She looked at a point on the wall just over my shoulder. "We've decided that the company needs to move in a new strategic direction," she said, her voice devoid of any emotion. It was a perfectly rehearsed corporate monologue. She spoke of streamlining leadership and optimizing operational flow. She said my role as chief strategist had become redundant. She was firing me from the company I had built from nothing, from the dream I had given my life to. She pushed an envelope across the polished table. It was a severance agreement, a paltry sum that was an insult to the years of my life I had poured into her into this. I was speechless. I tried to appeal to her, to the woman I married, the woman I had shared that napkin with. I looked for a flicker of recognition, of love, of shared history in her eyes. There was nothing, just a chilling, empty resolve. "I think you should go now," she said. "My brother will escort you out." Her brother stood up, his chest puffed out. He was now the COO. I had been replaced. I walked out of that office in a daze. When I got to my car, I realized my office keys had been deactivated. My company email account was already locked. In the space of a 10-minute meeting, I had been surgically excised from my own life. I was an exile from the empire I had built. The days that followed were a descent into a gray, featureless hell. The shock gave way to a pain so profound it was physical. It was a dual betrayal, a wound to my heart and my life's work. She had not just left me, she had stolen my future. She filed for divorce a week later. Her petition cited irreconcilable differences, claiming my lack of ambition and resistance to the company's growth had created an irreparable rift. She was rewriting history, painting me as a dead weight she had been forced to cut loose. Her brother in his new role was a disaster. I heard from former colleagues that the company was in chaos. He was making impulsive, ego-driven decisions, alienating suppliers and demoralizing the staff. But it brought me no comfort. Watching them burn down my kingdom was just another form of torture. I was at my lowest point, a man adrift in the wreckage of his life. I was packing up my home office, putting my old life into cardboard boxes when I found it. Tucked away in a filing cabinet was the original hard-copy operating agreement, the one we had signed at our kitchen table all those years ago. My hands trembled as I opened it. I read through the familiar clauses, the legal architecture of our dream. And then I found it. Section 9, subsection C, the kill switch. The clause I had written, the one she had dismissed as unnecessary corporate jargon. It was a masterpiece of legal protection. It stated that the company's proprietary operational systems, including the custom-coded e-commerce backend, the logistical frameworks, and the client acquisition algorithms, were all intellectual property developed by me prior to the company's official incorporation. They were licensed to the company, not owned by it, and the license was contingent upon my continued role as a key managing partner. My termination without cause constituted a material breach of that license. At my sole discretion, I had the right to terminate the licensing agreement with 48 hours' notice, effectively repossessing the company's entire central nervous system. She owned the brand, the name, the inventory, but I owned the machine that made it all work. A fire I thought had been extinguished forever ignited in my gut. The grief and despair were burned away, replaced by a cold, sharp, crystalline focus. This was no longer about a broken heart. This was about a broken contract. I didn't call her. I didn't send an emotional email. I hired the most ruthless corporate lawyer I could find. He read the clause, his eyes lighting up. "This is a work of art," he said, a slow smile spreading across his face. "This isn't just a loophole. It's a hangman's noose." We drafted the letter. It was 2 paragraphs long, cold, formal, and utterly devastating. It was delivered by courier to her, her brother, and the company's board of directors on a Thursday afternoon. It gave them notice that in 48 hours, the license for all proprietary operating systems would be terminated. The chaos that ensued was everything I had imagined. Her brother, I was told, had no idea how to even access the system's backend. They tried to hire outside developers, but my code was a labyrinth of my own design, impossible for an outsider to decrypt in time. Their online store, the source of 80% of their revenue, would cease to function. Their automated inventory system would shut down. Their supply chain would collapse. The engine of the company was about to be ripped out, and they didn't even know how to open the hood. The 48 hours passed in a blur of frantic, ignored phone calls from her and her lawyers. I didn't answer. I let the clock tick down. On Saturday morning, as per the legal notice, I executed the kill switch. From my laptop in my small, new apartment, I revoked the license. The company's digital infrastructure went dark. Her panicked, tearful call finally came that afternoon. The rage was gone, replaced by a desperate, pleading tone I hadn't heard in years. She talked about our history, about the dream, about the love we once shared. She begged me to turn it back on. "That company is everything I have," she cried. "I know," I said, my voice calm. "It was everything I had, too." I let her panic for another day before my lawyer made our offer. It was not a negotiation. It was a surrender document. I wasn't interested in a settlement. I didn't want my job back. I wanted the company, all of it. The contract gave me the leverage to force a buyout. And my buyout price was not based on the company's current multi-million-dollar valuation. It was based on a clause in our agreement that set the buyout value at the original seed capital investment in the event of a material breach. I was offering to buy back the entire empire for the exact amount of money I had put in from my 401k years ago. It was a corporate assassination, and the weapon was the very document she had signed to protect herself. She had no choice. To refuse meant certain bankruptcy. A week later, we sat in a lawyer's office, the same polished conference table where she had fired me. She looked broken, a ghost of the powerful CEO she had tried to become. Her brother was nowhere to be seen. She signed the papers, transferring 100% of the company to me. She was left with the buyout check, a fraction of what the company was worth, and the bitter taste of a perfectly executed revenge. I walked back into the office the next day. It was my office now. I sat down in the CEO's chair, the one I had indirectly bought for her. I was the sole owner of the business I had built from a dream on a napkin. The victory was not sweet. It was cold, hard, and lonely. I had won the war, but I had lost the person I had gone to war for in the first place. I had taken back my company, but I could never get back the man I was before she broke him, the man who believed that love and business could ever truly mix. Thanks for being here on Reddit Whispers. I've shared my story, but now I want to hear yours. What's the most surprising decision that turned everything around for you? Your comment could be the lifeline someone else is looking for today.